They say the universe is vast, limitless, and utterly, terrifyingly empty. A canvas of nothingness waiting for our imagination to fill its voids.
But what if the emptiness isn't empty at all? What if it's merely holding its breath, waiting for us to listen, waiting for us to find it?
For centuries, we've gazed at the stars, dreaming of contact, of discovery. We sent our probes, our signals, our hopes into the dark. We never imagined the nightmares that would answer. We never dreamed what might be listening back.
This is not a story of first contact. It's a confession, a warning. From the edge of oblivion, where the line between humanity and alien terror blurs, and the silence is the loudest scream of all. This is what we found. This is what found us.
They were the crew of the Odyssey, humanity's farthest reach into the cosmos. Sent to catalog anomalous energy signatures emanating from the far side of Epsilon Eridani 6, a desolate moon long dismissed as barren. They found no energy signatures. They found this.
The ship was a ghost, a tomb floating in the silent void for millennia. No power, no crew, just an unbearable, oppressive cold that chilled them to their very souls, even through their insulated suits. And the writing, everywhere, on every surface, a language of nightmares.
Eris, the linguist, felt a chilling familiarity with the symbols, not from study, but from a forgotten, primal fear. A fear that humanity had somehow suppressed, a forgotten memory of something truly other.
Elias, ever the pragmatist, was drawn to the source of the anomaly. A massive sealed chamber radiating an energy signature that defied all known physics. An energy that felt hungry. But Aris, her eyes fixed on the unfolding horror on her tablet, felt a different kind of pull. A chilling premonition that they weren't just exploring a wreck, they were disturbing a grave. Or worse, waking something that had simply been waiting.
That thump. It wasn't the sound of something breaking. It was the sound of something stirring. A slow, deliberate pulse from the heart of the unknown, awakening after an eternity of silent slumber. Elias, driven by a lifetime of scientific curiosity, saw a puzzle. Eris, by instinct, felt a premonition of pure, unadulterated dread.
The ship wasn't derelict. It was a prison, a containment vessel. The hieroglyphs weren't a history. They were a warning, a desperate, ancient plea etched into the very walls, screaming of a cosmic horror that transcended time and space. Eris felt it in her bones. This wasn't just an alien species. This was an event, a cycle of terror that had played out across untold civilizations.
But Elias, ever the scientist, saw only data. A locked door waiting to be opened. His instrument hummed, straining against the unknown energies. He was so close to bypassing the ancient seals, so focused on the technical challenge, he didn't see the true horror forming around Aris. He didn't hear the warnings screaming from the very fabric of the ship.
They had disturbed the slumber of something ancient, something that had waited for eons in the heart of this desolate moon. This wasn't a scientific marvel, it was a tomb, holding a horror beyond human comprehension. And now, the tomb was opening.
Every instinct screamed at them to run, to flee this place, this thing. But the sheer, overwhelming terror rooted them to the spot. It was the terror of facing something utterly alien, something that defied every law of biology and sanity they knew. This was not a creature of evolution. This was a creature of creation, or worse, an aberration.
It wasn't just a monster. It was intelligent, predatory, and its touch revealed its true nature. It didn't just want to kill them, it wanted to consume them, to harvest them, just as the ancient glyphs had warned. Panic is a cruel master. It demands speed, yet it blurs the path. Elias and Eris, propelled by raw, primal fear, plunged deeper into the alien labyrinth. Every turn offered a new horror, walls etched with the suffering of unknown species, strange biological growths pulsating in the shadows, and the constant crushing knowledge that it was behind them, gaining ground.
This wasn't just a chase, it was a hunt. The creature moved with an unholy intelligence, anticipating their moves, blocking off escape routes, herding them deeper into its domain. It wasn't merely fast, it was patient, savoring the fear it instilled, playing with its prey. Every shadow held a threat, every echo a promise of unimaginable pain.
Hope is a dangerous illusion in a place like this. Elias, clinging to the remnants of his scientific training, believed a solution lay within the alien technology. If they could reach the ship's external controls, if they could force open an airlock, a chance, however slim, to escape. But Eris, her eyes drawn to the chilling beauty of the crystal growths, felt a different truth. They weren't just decorative. They were witnesses, or worse, recorders.
The console didn't just show a single hunter. It revealed the horrifying truth. They had stumbled into a nesting ground. The crystalline stalactites, those beautiful, terrible archives of suffering, were not merely records. They were incubators, or perhaps dormant forms of the very terror they sought to escape.
Every crack was a birth, every shriek a cry of new hunger. The elegant architecture of the ship was not just a structure, it was an organism, a horrifying ecosystem designed for one purpose: to nurture these abominations. Elias, frozen by the unimaginable scale of the threat, could only stare at the console, the futile hope of escape dissolving into cold dread. Eris, however, saw something else, a pattern in the panic. In the face of overwhelming horror, the human mind often seeks patterns, however desperate. Eris, driven by an instinct for survival and a sudden, terrifying epiphany, saw a slim chance, a flaw in the design, a hidden path. It was a gamble, a desperate leap into the unknown, but the alternative was certain obliteration.
Hope, however tenuous, was a luxury they could not afford. The tunnel, a desperate shortcut, was a gamble against annihilation. It was not an escape, but a sweep through the veins of a monster
with the promise of an uncertain fate. Every inch gained was a victory against panic, every sound from behind a reminder of imminent death.
The predator wasn't just strong, it was relentless. Its intelligence, a form of alien cunning, allowed it to sense their presence, to track them through the bowels of the ship. The tunnel, which Eris had hoped would be an escape route, was becoming a trap, a channel that led them deeper into the darkness, with the monster close behind, breathing down their necks.
Despair is a slow poison. Every obstacle, every moment of delay was an invitation for horror to overtake them. The tunnel, which seemed like salvation, revealed itself to be more of a torture chamber, a corridor of anguish. And the fog. The fog wasn't just vapor. It was the ship's own breath, or perhaps something more sinister, a substance that promised more than just cold.
Trapped, enveloped by the very air of this alien tomb. The corrosive mist wasn't just a byproduct of the ship. It was a weapon designed to soften their resolve, to break their defenses before the true horror arrived. Every second spent on the lock was a second stolen from their diminishing lives, as the Harvester relentlessly breached the last barrier between them.
Science, their lifelong guide, was failing them. Elias, faced with a mechanism beyond human comprehension, relied on brute force and dwindling hope. But Eris, the linguist, saw a different path. Not technology, but translation. The lock wasn't just a lock. It was a riddle, a final, sadistic puzzle set by an ancient, malevolent intelligence.
For a fleeting moment, silence. A silence more terrifying than any scream. It was the silence of anticipation. The universe holding its breath, waiting to see if their desperate gambit would pay off, or if they had simply offered themselves as a sacrifice to the very entity they sought to escape.
Escape. A single, desperate word carrying the weight of a universe. Eris had made it out, into the cold, indifferent embrace of the void. But the question screamed in the silence. At what cost? Was she alone? Had Elias, her brother, her anchor in this cosmic nightmare, been left behind to face the unimaginable?
That silence. It wasn't empty. It was filled with the crushing weight of what she already knew. The smeared handprint, the choked gasp, a sacrifice made in the desperate hope of her survival. The alien ship itself seemed to mourn, or perhaps to gloat. Its ancient hum a chilling lullaby for the newly departed.
Grief was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not now, not when the Odyssey lay dormant, a beacon of hope, or a lure for the horrors still lurking within this cosmic leviathan. A plan, desperate and perhaps suicidal, began to form in her mind. If she could reach the Odyssey, if she could send a signal, there was a chance, a whisper of a chance.
Eris begins to move along the exterior of the alien ship cautiously, using magnetic boots. The surface is slick and strangely warm in places, pulsing faintly with unseen energies. As she moves, her helmet's HUD flickers, displaying scrambled data, then briefly, a chilling, almost subliminal image of those unblinking black alien eyes superimposed over the void itself. A section of the alien ship's hull directly above her begins to subtly ripple, as if something massive is stirring just beneath the surface.
Eris freezes, staring up at the rippling hull, a massive shadowy form
too large to be the harvester, too vast to comprehend, begins to press outward from within the alien ship itself, distorting its very structure. It is formless, yet undeniably there, a colossal, ancient consciousness waking. Eris looks from this burgeoning, cosmic entity to the distant, vulnerable Odyssey. The screen cuts to black as a terrifying, resonant shriek echoes, not from the harvester, but from the alien ship itself, the sound of immense, awakening power.
The terrifying shriek of the awakening entity reverberates, and the screen pulses with violent, chaotic colors. Greens, purples, and reds swirling from within the alien ship. Eris clings to the exterior hull, small and vulnerable against the colossal, distorting mass. The Odyssey is still in the distance, a glimmer of fragile humanity. The cosmic backdrop of nebulae seems to writhe, reflecting the ship's internal turmoil.
This wasn't a ship. It was a prison for something ancient, something that transcended even the concept of creature. A cosmic entity bound for eons, now stirring. The harvester was merely a single, ravenous limb. This was the mind.
Eris, driven by a desperate, suicidal impulse, pushes off the alien hull and begins to propel herself towards the Odyssey. The distance is vast, and the alien ship behind her begins to visibly deform, its elegant lines warping into grotesque bulges and fissures. From these fissures, faint, unblinking eyes, mirroring those seen throughout the story, begin to appear across its colossal surface, hundreds of them, opening and staring into the void, directly at her.
They were not just observing, they were seeing. Every move, every thought, every beat of her terrified heart. She was not escaping. She was being allowed to run, a final, futile gesture before the inevitable. The whispers in her calms were the dying echoes of every civilization, every creature, every hope that had ever encountered this insatiable horror.
Eris reaches the Odyssey, slamming into its inert hull. She scrambles for the external airlock. As she frantically works to open it, the colossal alien ship behind her begins to pull away, slowly, gracefully, yet with an air of immense power. As it recedes, its true, horrifying scale becomes apparent. It dwarfs the Odyssey, an entire moon-sized entity now revealed as a living, breathing, ancient monstrosity. Its surface a shifting landscape of eyes and tendrils, turning slowly to face her ship.
Eris tumbles into the airlock, sealing it shut behind her. She rushes to the bridge, hitting emergency power. The ship's internal lights flicker on, revealing a dark, deserted bridge. She slumps into the pilot's seat, her hands flying over the controls, desperately trying to power up the comms and engines. Through the main view screen, the colossal alien entity is now a distant, yet rapidly approaching horror, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. A single, small organic probe detaches from the alien entity and rapidly accelerates towards the Odyssey.
Eris's eyes widen in absolute horror. She looks up, her gaze fixed on the ceiling of the bridge, where a dark, wet stain begins to spread rapidly. The faint, high-pitched chittering is now directly above her. Her hand, frozen, hovers over the emergency distress button. The screen cuts to static, then fades to black as the chilling sounds of the squeals intensify, followed by a final, desperate, cut-off scream from Eris. A long, unnerving silence.
If this true story gave you chills, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and ring the bell for more dark and unexplained encounters. And remember, sometimes when you stare into the stars, something stares back.